And breaking news right now, former NBA star and SoCal native Gilbert Arenas has pleaded not guilty to charges involving operating an illegal gambling business.
You know, one of the overall messages from a whole host of my videos that I really want you guys to take away from said videos, I really want you guys to internalize, is the idea that criminals, people who do crimes, people who be doing crimes, are absolute idiots in every possible way. And a perfect example of a criminal allegedly being an absolute idiot is former NBA player Gilbert Arenas, who was recently indicted on federal charges along with an Israeli member of organized crime and a couple of other folks for running an illegal gambling operation that also, even though it's kind of implied but not outright stated, may have included a prostitution operation. Now, of course, former NBA player who made over $100 million in one of the worst contracts ever given in NBA history should have enough money to be living well and not be participating in this kind of nonsense. But the fact is, what we see from NBA players time and time again is that these people essentially go broke 8 minutes after they stop playing because essentially they are lottery winners and they have no idea how to manage the money that they made throughout the course of their career. Therefore, you can't expect them to not return to their hood criminal ways, and this is what it appears that Gilbert Arenas has done. Now, to be clear, I am calling Gilbert Arenas an idiot, a dumb idiot, and one of the reasons for that is this particular image that was released by the police that essentially shows us that Gilbert Arenas wasn't even hiding his gambling operation. Again, look at this. It says Arenas Poker and then has a silhouette of him wearing the number 0, which is the jersey number that he wore while he was playing in the NBA. So obviously, this guy appears to be doing some kind of a poker operation, bare minimum, and it looks like those federal charges might not only be warranted, but almost are a guarantee for a conviction. Now, we're going to get into this. We are going to break this down, but before we do, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay?
It sounds like a Hollywood thriller. An alleged Israeli crime boss, a famous NBA player, and a high-stakes mansion gambling ring busted by the feds. And tonight, NBA All-Star Gilbert Arenas shares video as he leaves court, seemingly untroubled about the serious charges he's facing.
So first of all, let me just say from the top, this does not sound like a Hollywood thriller. In fact, it might sound like one of those things that they do where they make an actual crime story into a comedy movie because the premise is absolutely ridiculous. Secondly, you guys might have heard in my opening and in that local news segment that we have a high leader in Israeli organized crime involved in this operation. And since over here on the Actual Justice Warrior channel, we are paid shills of the Israeli government, I'm going to say that that guy in particular didn't do nothing. Totally innocent, honestly was just defending himself. He just had to put up some kind of structure between him and the neighboring Arabs that were likely trying to attack his poker game. So we're never going to mention that Israeli mobster guy at all whatsoever, so leave your angry comments down in the comments below. Now, of course, I'm just kidding about that. Obviously, there are organized criminals from a bunch of different various countries and ethnic origins, and guess what? If they're involved in shady operations like this one right here, and that is proven to be true, I hope they are sentenced to some serious prison time. Because again, while the media tends to focus on the gambling operation and the fact that they're paying these high stakes fees in order to play poker at this Arenas table, the fact of the matter is I don't really give a damn about the gambling per se. What actually worries me and actually concerns me is, of course, that you have the quote-unquote massage girls that are being brought in by Arenas and, of course, by this Israeli criminal, and it appears like this is clearly and obviously prostitution, yet nobody in the media who's reporting on this is identifying it as such. I mean, again, who pays high stakes fees in order to gamble at a secret underground poker game and then also has women paying top dollar in order to be there to give those men massages? I mean, come on, folks. What's going on here? We obviously know something suspicious is happening right now, and I just want to say I'm a little bit concerned about Mr. Arenas' attitude because much like him in his playing days, he is being a dumb idiot post his arrest.
Driveway here behind me is that Encino mansion where these high-stakes poker games allegedly took place. You can't actually see the house from the the road. And maybe that's the point. These weren't your average poker games either, not just because of the amount of money that was being gambled, but because the U.S. Attorney's Office says those who orchestrated, supervised, and directed these poker nights profited at every turn. A smiling Gilbert Arenas skips down the steps of the federal courthouse downtown, very visibly unbothered by his arrest.
Can't hold me, baby. They can't hold me.
The NBA star facing 3 federal charges, including operating an illegal gambling business for what allegedly went down in this Encino mansion between September of 2021 and July of 2022. The Department of Justice claims Arenas, years after his NBA career was over, rented out the home and directed others to stage the place to host high-stakes poker games. In the indictment, the DOJ included this photo that Arenas allegedly texted to one of the other 7 people charged. It's a poker table that says Arenas Poker Club.
Now again, the local news segment is very fast and loose with the details of this particular scheme. Essentially, they're focusing on the fact that Gilbert Arenas is in fact an idiot. Obviously, if he was participating in an illegal operation, stamping his freaking name all over said operation and then sending photos of the poker table around to people via text message would lead him to get caught. But for whatever reason, Gilbert Arenas is completely unbothered by this. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't point out that Gilbert Arenas already has a questionable criminal past. In fact, when he was in a gambling dispute with a player when he was on the Washington Wizards, Gilbert Arenas allegedly flashed him a bunch of guns in what appeared to be a threat of intimidation. But of course, he was able to get away with this because he's wealthy, because he was able to hire attorneys, and since he was the star player of the then Washington Wizards, essentially they gave him a free pass on this behavior, although they did thumb their nose at him just a little bit. But in addition to that, Gilbert Arenas, after having ACL surgery, which is a key ligament in your knee, ended up committing his greatest robbery of all when he signed a 6-year, $111 million contract with the Washington Wizards, despite the fact that he was injured and would never be the same again. So again, Gilbert Arenas, no stranger to robbery, Gilbert Arenas, no stranger to criming, and obviously this is very concerning. According to the indictment returned on July 15th and unsealed today, from September 2021 to July 2022, Gershman, Arenas, and other defendants operated an illegal gambling business. Arenas rented out an Encino mansion he owned for this purpose of hosting the high-stakes illegal poker games. At Arenas' direction, Arthur Katz of West Hollywood staged the mansion to host the games, found co-conspirators to host the games, and collected rent from the co-conspirators on Arenas' behalf. Gershman, Trovolsky, Osteria, and Cohen managed the illegal Pot Limit Omaha poker games, among other illegal games at the Encino Mansion, and collected a rake, aka a fee, the house charged from each pot either as a percentage or a fixed amount per hand, and invited players to compete. Gershman also hired young women who, in exchange for tips, served drinks, provided massages, and offered companionship, which should be in quotes right here, wink wink, to the poker players. The women were charged a tax, a percentage of their earnings, for working the games. Chefs, valets, and armed security guards were also hired to staff the illegal poker games. Now again, I'm not sure how you guys feel about gambling. I have to be perfectly honest, even though I don't care for it myself, I don't necessarily think that it should be illegal. However, one of the things that I find incredibly interesting about this particular story is that the tax that Arenas was collecting from the women that were working the games is clearly and obviously the equivalent of a pimp taking their percentage, and yet the Department of Justice doesn't really charge in that regard, nor do they actually acknowledge what was actually taking place, again, from my reading of the indictment. In addition to that, it appears that these Israelis also committed various forms of immigration fraud in order to get in this country, including lying on immigration forms, fake marriages, and whatnot, and they were essentially doing this so that they could participate in this criminal operation. And obviously, even though we're clearly shills for the Israeli government, this is unacceptable behavior, and I will break from my Mossad handlers in order to tell you that. But again, the thing that I find most amazing about all this is just how stupid Gilbert Arenas is. They used a mansion that he rented out. They used a table that had his name on it. He had to splash his face all over this operation, so obviously, when you're hiring women in order to comfort the gamblers, inviting gamblers to a high-stakes game, you're involving Israeli specifically organized crime, but you also have staff like chefs and cleaners and all these different various people, eventually your conspiracy is going to get unraveled. And of course, Gilbert Arenas is alleged to have lied to the federal government, which means he could be facing a perjury charge. And we all know, based on the pattern of that particular charge, that you could be not convicted on anything else, but still serve significant time for lying to the feds.
Arenas' attorney not saying much after the multi-millionaire former pro athlete pleaded not guilty in court.
We'll just sort of see how things go, but he is getting out on bail.
And what's his spirit like?
I'm sorry?
His spirit, how his mood?
He seemed fine when I saw him.
He seems more than fine after posting the $50,000 bond. This video posted to social media included the caption, "This ain't got bleep to do with me. Just rented the house, wasn't part of the festivities." The festivities, according to the DOJ, included paid poker dealers, chefs, valets, armed security, even women who served drinks, offered massages, and, quote, companionship.
Gilbert Arenas may be one of the stupidest individuals I've ever seen facing federal indictment. First and foremost, he's admitting publicly that he just rented the house, he wasn't a part of the festivities, and yet we see him texting images of the poker table, according to the indictment, to other people that quite literally has his name and likeness on it because he wanted to brand this criminal operation. He's laughing about it, he's smiling about it, but in reality, this is no laughing matter, and it just goes to show you just because you're good at shooting three-pointers, just because you can score 20 points a game, doesn't mean you're intelligent at all whatsoever, and Gilbert Arenas is proving that throughout the course of this story.
Retired FBI agent Bobby Chacon says this went way beyond your average poker night with friends.
When I've been involved in friends' poker games, we each throw in a few bucks for chips and beer or whatever, but in this case, the house was taking a cut of every pot, either usually a percentage of the pot or, a flat fee per hand. So it was really operating much more like a casino.
The charges come just months after Arenas' son Elijah, a USC recruit, was seriously injured when he crashed his Cybertruck into a tree in Reseda. His freshman season won't likely happen because of an unrelated knee injury suffered last week. So no basketball this fall for either Arenas.
Now look, obviously we wish Gilbert Arenas' son a speedy recovery. We're thankful that he survived that Cybertruck accident. However, it just goes to show you how stupid Gilbert Arenas, the father, is, because this man is supposedly a multimillionaire. He supposedly is claiming he had nothing to do with this. In fact, he's laughing about the fact that he got $50,000 bond. And yet, even though his son is set up to be in the NBA and make millions himself, Gilbert just can't help himself. He has to be in the news, he has to get attention, and he has to be an absolute idiot about it in every possible way, to the point where his lawyer doesn't really have a decent defense for him.
Instead, Gilbert will be at a different court as this gambling trial starts in September.
He's presumed innocent, right? So let's give him the benefit of his presumption.
I mean, that's kind of weak right there, where he's like, my client's technically presumed innocent at this moment in time, so right now, let's just go with that. Let's just say innocent until proven guilty and move along with this case. But of course, I want to know what you guys think about all this down in the comments below. What do you think about the elements of the case that I highlighted that are kind of understated in the news coverage and in the actual explanation from the DOJ? And of course, what do you think about the prospects of Mr. Arenas being innocent? And of course, what do you think about the Israeli crime syndicate being involved in this whole program? Now, as per usual, if you like this video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on my social media, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about Gilbert Arenas busted for an illegal Israeli gambling operation. Till next time.